About 4 days ago, I deactivated my Facebook account. And here's why. Now, it may be temporary, and it's not because I miss Facebook, believe me. Actually, I'm kind of enjoying it. But there are some groups that I administer that other people use, and there are some photo archives that I've posted on my behalf that essentially disappear if I don't have an active Facebook profile. So I may have to reactivate at some point. I'll have to see how it goes. But it won't be as a consumer anymore. I do use Facebook as a publishing mechanism for my photos, and it's been somewhat useful. A lot of people do view my photos that way. I have actually made some sales of photos that way. Not enough to make a living, but enough to fund the hobby. But I'm actually willing to give that up at this point if I have to, because of what this platform and the tech social media platforms in general are becoming. And there was like one particular last straw for me on Saturday that made me just finally do it. And I know I think there was supposed to be a movement on Friday for people to deactivate, and I wasn't quite there yet, but it took one more day and one more thing on Facebook to have it happen. So let me just give a little bit of background. So starting, I don't know, a couple years ago, I started to get somewhat irritated. Apple has a news app, Apple News, which they put on iOS, and you can create a widget on your whatever page they call it. When you swipe to the right, and you get that daily page with your calendar and stocks and whatever else you want to put on there, and there's a news widget, Apple News. And forever they've been noticeably biased, and to the point where I would screen cap them and send them around because they're caricatures of themselves when they're so obviously biased. And I used to, in a way, just chuckle at it and roll my eyes and just deal with it, take it with a grain of salt because, it is what it is, right? So that was, again, a couple years ago. So that, fast forward to election season coming around, maybe starting about a year ago, all the stuff that's now happening and very much emphasized in the news with censorship of big tech, as they call it, starts out. So we started seeing, I guess it started with Twitter, and the order doesn't matter, but we started seeing this with Twitter, where they started putting disclaimers on tweets by Trump and other figures, calling into question the factual basis of these tweets. Then they started outright deleting tweets and blocking tweets, and then most recently they blocked the New York Post as an entire newspaper from tweeting because of what they tweeted out. So they started to essentially play God in terms of what people could see and not see, and that's the censorship angle, where they would remove content from your eyeballs in a sense, and prevent you from being able to see things that they didn't want you to see. Apple News, as I described, was kind of the other side of the coin, where they would shove in your face things that they wanted you to see. And those two things were kind of going on. Look, the Apple News type bias has been going on for years, right? I mean, we've lived with that for a long time. The newspapers, one of their biggest forms of bias is deciding what they won't report on, right? So that's been going on. And then Facebook got into the act. And Facebook started, we all know about Facebook jail, right? So you get censored if you post something they don't like. You get put in Facebook jail for 30 days. You can't use your account. And that's been going on for a while, right? But then they started putting disclaimers. And they took a page out of Twitter's book. And they started putting disclaimers and fact checks on posts. And I've only seen it on conservative posts. Now, that could be because that's what I mostly end up getting steered in my direction. But to me, it looked like that was mostly happening on conservative posts. But it really doesn't matter. I actually don't care which side of it it's on. I just don't think Facebook has a place, nor does Twitter have a place in putting fact-check disclaimers. Because who's picking the fact-checkers? I really don't know who's picking the fact-checkers. So, give me the information, let me decide. Let me do the smell test on things that I read and let me decide. Now, I understand not everybody can do that, but the dangers of having them decide what's factual, what's not factual, or getting to the point where they start to even fact check opinions and put disclaimers on opinions, and it just starts to get way too much, and it's been very, very concerning to me. But what was really, really the last straw for me was it was building up to this, and it finally happened on Saturday. And that is that I started to see, it was right after the election, and the election was being contested, and there was all of these allegations by the Trump camp about fraud, about the Dominion software, and and I started to see a new ribbon show up on my Facebook page. You know, you get those ribbons that say people you may know. Well, there's a new ribbon that showed up, and it appears to be Facebook sourced. It's a Facebook started jamming in my news feed another ribbon. You know, ads are one thing. I can put up with the ads, but now there's another ribbon which are new, curated, apparently curated news stories in this ribbon. Sorry, I should be going this way, right, for your perspective. So in this ribbon, there are these curated news stories that they apparently are picking and choosing to put in there, and they're all left-leaning. I'm looking at these and I'm going, this is now they've joined the club. They've done they started their censorship. Now they've joined the club by becoming a curated news source. They're supposed to be a social platform. Just be a platform. Let us throw our crap on there and let us look at all of our crap. And even if people want to post stuff that you don't like, you shouldn't censor it. But now they are becoming more active in becoming a source of propaganda. It's no longer by omission, it's now by commission. And I'm putting two things up on your screen right now, and you can see two examples of exactly what I'm talking about. These popped up across my feed. These are two articles, and I have not seen any articles on the other side of this story. These are two articles about, you know, as you can see, they're about the election, the contesting of the election, and they're jamming it down our throats. The left side of the story, that there was no fraud, there was no problem with Dominion, you know, Trump's claims are baseless. And really, like, am I here to be a tool for Facebook to just, you know, let them turn my mind into mush? So I just looked at that and I said, I'm out. I just can't be party to that at this point. So, you know, I'm pretty much done. Again, if I have to reactivate for administrative purposes, I may, but I will never use Facebook the same way again. I'm not even sure if I'll use it as a publishing mechanism. I may just keep it active as a placeholder so my photos don't disappear, and you know, the photo archives that I mentioned, so that they don't disappear, and so I can keep the groups that I administer from being archived. So we'll see what happens, but that's why I deactivated my account.